For this video, I'm going to show you how to install Zeroscope XL, which is a new text-to-video model. I'll be honest, like most of these instructions are coming from David Marks and his YouTube video, but his YouTube video was a little hard to hear. The sound was a little iffy, and it was meant for local installs. So I'm going to show you how to do everything in Colab, and I hopefully won't skip any steps. So this should be a little bit easier for folks that use Colab. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to run our Fast Stable Diffusion Automatic 1111 notebook from Colab. For this, I probably recommend that you at least have Colab Pro. These models do take a little bit more VRAM, and I think especially if you're going to do the upscaling, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But essentially, Colab Pro gives you at least V100s, I think, which will probably be good. Might even give you A100s. I don't know how the new system works. I always use Pro Plus, but that's just me, because I do this a lot. You're going to run this notebook. I'll drop the link to this in the video notes. You'll go through it and run every step. If you've never done this before, I highly recommend you check out my text-to-video class. We basically go over this notebook like pretty much 4 or 5 times. For this, I'm actually just running every step. I'm not installing any of the ControlNet stuff, so that's not a big deal. And since we're only using these new models, we don't actually need to worry about the model download, so V1.5 for this model version is totally fine. Once you've got this running, you're going to go ahead and click on the Running on Public URL and open that. And once you're open here, you probably, unless you've sort of played around with this, don't see a tab called Text to Video. And that's the first we need to turn on. So we're going to go to Extensions, we're going to go to Available, and we're going to click on this Load From button. And then we're going to search for Text to Video. And I think it's actually just TXT to vid. Nope. Okay. Let me dig through here and find out where it is. Let's actually do a search for model scope. There we go. Yeah, here we go. Text to video tab animation. So this is what we want to turn on. So we're just going to click install. And it should now be in our installed section. Let's just double check. Yep, text to video. And now we should see when we go back here, I think this is where we need to restart. So we're going to restart the system. So the best way to do that is just to close out of this tab, hit stop on this cell, and then hit run again. And this will take a couple minutes to get loaded up. So what are we doing in this step? So we're actually installing the extension that allows us to do text to video. And if you've never done text to video, this is essentially like text to image, except it generates videos. And the main tool that most people use right now is a tool called Modelscope. And this essentially allows you to generate videos. So we'll actually open up this page because we're probably going to look at it. And let's see, model card. So we'll be using this to get started because we're going to install some tools directly from here, and then we're going to go to the Modelscope XL and install those tools. Let me just see if this is open. It is running again. So now this is running again. You'll see you've got a new public URL. This will always be different than your previous one, so you can't just leave that other tab open. Go ahead and open this. And now we'll see that we have our text to video tab here. So let's click in here. And you'll see you've got text to video, vid to vid, output settings, and then how to install, where to get help, how to help. So click on this, and you'll see here we need to download the pre-trained text to video models via this link. Oh, and that's for Video Crafter, so excuse me, that's not right. So we're going to use this one. So we're in Modelscope. So we're going to put your models to Stable Diffusion in a folder called Models Text to Video. Each full model should have its own folder. The model consists of 4 parts. So we can open up this GitHub tab, and this will give us the instructions here. So we're going to scroll down a little bit and look for the where to get the weights. Okay, so we're going to download the following files from the original Hugging Face repository. And then we're going to put them in a folder called Stable Diffusion Web UI, Models, Modelscope, T to V. And you'll need to create those 2 folders they are missing. Okay, so let's go back to our Colab notebook. And if we open up our file browser here, if you're using Colab, all of these, and Colab with G Drive, you'll always find this in G Drive, My Drive, SD. And then in here, you'll see Stable Diffusion Web UI. You open that, and in there will be a folder called Models. And this is where we need to make our folder. So if we look here, it says we need to make a folder called Modelscope, and then another folder called Text to Video. So probably the easiest way to do this is just to go in here and go New Folder. And we're going to make that. And then inside this folder, we'll just make another folder. We'll call it T2V. Yep, there we go. Okay. So now what we want to do is we actually want to put our files in this folder. I'm actually just going to stop my Stable Diffusion notebook. Doesn't really matter. It could run in the background. But I find it's a bit easier just to like stop all that, because I think you do need to restart your version of Stable Diffusion in order to actually have it pick up all the changes. So let's go back to this GitHub page, and we're going to download these 4 files. And actually, we can skip the last one. I might run it anyway, just so you can see what this particular version of Modelscope looks like. The biggest problem with this version of Modelscope is that it used watermarked video files. So it tends to have a ton of watermarking in the actual video outputs. This is why we're going to use V2XL, because V2XL is actually like using like a brand new like fine tune that has no watermarking in it and will generate much better images, or much better video essentially. Okay, so let's get started. Alright, so we're going to go to these pages, or the original Hugging Face repository, and grab all of these links. And you'll see here we've got, so what are the ones we need? We need the autoencoder, configuration, open clip, and text video. So one thing you could do is you could just download all these files and then upload them to Drive. That's going to be a huge pain in the ass because these are very large files and it's very slow. So what I actually recommend doing is using wget to actually pull down all of the files. So in order to do that, what you need to do here is you need to go to each of these files individually, like just click on the link. And you'll see here that this file is stored with git LFS, which means you can't really see it, but you can still download it. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this link. And actually, before we do that, we're going to go into our terminal over here. And we're going to copy this path. So sorry, basically, terminal is going to allow us to download these files. What I want to do is actually move into that folder and make sure I'm downloading them into the right location. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click on this folder, and we're going to say copy path. Then over here, we're going to do cd space, and then paste in that path. So that means we're going to want to install all of the files into this folder. And now we can come back here and we can grab this download link. So we're going to right-click on it and hit copy link address. Come back over here, and we're going to type in wget, and then paste that in. And this will take a little bit of time because those files are quite large. This one in particular is 5.2 gigabytes. Now to download that and upload that using your local computer would take, I don't know, probably an hour, at least on my internet. This will probably take just a couple minutes, so it looks like it's going to take about a minute. So this is the encoder file. So this is doing some of the auto encoding that allows us to basically generate the video. The open clip is going to convert, I assume, going to convert our text into the right path, or the right sort of latent space, and then the text to video is actually going to generate the video. We could use, you could do multiple downloads here. Like the thing you could do here is you could add a new cell and actually do the exact same commands. You would just type in this %cd and then run that. Oh, I need to add a % in front of here. Oh, interesting. %cd, run that, and now you're back in here. See, while this is downloading, you could download another file as well. I think the bandwidth is probably going to be maxed out, so it's going to be like half speed for both, but you could do it anyway. But since this config file is super small, let's just go ahead and grab this one. So for this file, because this is not something hosted on git LFS and it's not very large, you're going to come over here and just grab the raw link. And then from here, you can just type in again, command or exclamation point wget, and then paste that in, and then run that cell. And that took all of like, half a second. So we still want to download these other files, which are the open clip. So we'll grab this, and again, because this is too large, we'll grab the download link, and we'll type in wget, paste in the path, and then download. So the tricky thing to remember here is that when you're in terminal, you don't use the exclamation point. When you are here in the Colab cells, you do want to use the exclamation point in front of wget. That's because the Colab cells can run a bunch of different types of files. Adding the exclamation point basically says run it like a bash command, which is what operates usually the best inside of terminal. So basically we're saying use terminal style commands inside of this, whereas over here we're already in terminal, so we don't need to say that. A little confusing, but it works. And then lastly, let's just grab this one as well. And this is the original Modelscope file. Again, if you want to save yourself a couple minutes, you don't need to install this, but I'm going to show you what using this video tool looks like with this particular model. And we'll run this one as well. So this one already finished. This one will take about a minute and a half. So this downloads, I should also mention, if you're part of my Patreon, maybe a couple months ago, you actually got a fine-tuned Modelscope model that I made, and there was also a notebook that came along with that. You can still use that fine-tuned version here, and you'll follow the exact same idea, except what you'll do is you'll move the model file in, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. You can also use that notebook if you just want to generate video directly out of it and not use Auto 1111. I think most people are moving to Auto 1111 because it just makes a little bit more sense, and it's a little bit more generalized for different tools. But that other notebook is still working and functioning, and I've played with it a little bit recently. Okay, so this is still downloading, 30 seconds left. So I'll be back when this is finished. Okay, I'm back. This finished downloading. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and hit Start Stable Diffusion again. And this is just going to reload our notebook. And this should work with all of the changes we've got. There we go. So we have our public URL. Open that up. And now let's click into text to video. And we should be set up here. So we'll see that the model here is set to Modelscope. We have a text to vid option, a vid to vid option, output settings, and how to install. So we'll come back and look at this in just a minute. One thing I do want to talk about is going to your settings tab over here and scrolling down to the text to video. So I would probably recommend that if you are going to do this a lot, you probably want to set this to GPU main model only. If you have maybe, say, an A100, which has a lot of space on it, you could actually set it to all. Basically, what this is going to allow you to do is going to allow your generation to be a little bit faster. I will say with the VAE mode, I would probably, you could use the half precision. It's going to be a little bit smaller again, but if you have a bigger GPU, you might want to set that to this. That way it's just, this is going to make everything run a little bit faster, especially if you're on the A100 in Colab. If you're on the T4, the V100, you might want to do these two, just because it'll be a little bit, it won't like crash your system. But if you have the A100, which has a lot of space on it, I think setting these two to these two settings would be the best. So we're going to head and hit Apply Settings, because I am using the A100. Now I'll come back to text video. So just like anything with using Stable Diffusion, you want to sort of set in some prompts. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste in a prompt that I've been using. This prompt actually doesn't work well at all, but it's a quote from William Gibson, but it's just sort of what I use, but it doesn't actually work particularly well, sorry to say. I probably won't go over this stuff just yet. Maybe we'll go back to it when we start to use Zeroscope. But there are number of steps, there's a CFG scale, there's width and height, and then seed. So all of these things matter. The one thing I would say you probably don't want to really change is changing the frames. Because of how Zeroscope was trained, or ModelScope was trained, you don't really want to go longer than a second worth of video, unfortunately. I think we all want to make longer video, but the way that especially Zeroscope XL was trained, it was only trained within a context window of 24 seconds. So anything longer than this, you're likely going to see some issues. So I'd probably say just leave it at 24 for the best results. Once you've sort of got a handle of things, maybe then you want to play with it. So let's just go ahead and generate a video here really quickly, and I can sort of show you that these videos don't necessarily look that good coming out of the original ModelScope model. And actually, let me just change this. I'm going to change this to something that might actually be in the ModelScope model. So let's just say a bear eating a picnic lunch. I know people have made stuff with bears before, so let's go ahead and generate that. So when you hit generate, you'll see that it kind of just, nothing really shows up here. That's because you want to go back to this tab and actually see what's happening. So you'll see coming out of our command line here in this notebook is that we are using text-to-video extension, and we are using starting text-to-video, and then it's going to give us all of this output here. This might be helpful because somewhere in here, actually maybe not in this one, but in a different one there is, well, in a couple seconds we'll see it. It will give you what the seed value is. So if you've ever used Auto 1111, you know that when the seed is -1, that just means random. And what you might find is that you actually want to keep this for a later path, and you'll want to use that seed again. We'll cover that when we go to upscaling ModelScope XL. This is finally run, and you'll see it's just generating our frames. And you'll also see in here, let me just go to the top of this here, you'll see the configuration for this sample. So a bear eating a picnic lunch, negative prompts, number of steps, frames, and then the seed value. So that's where you can grab that from. And it completed, I guess it generated 30 steps, and then it generates our frames, and it stitches the video together, and then it saves it out into this folder. So outputs, so we'll go to G drive, my drive, it is what, SD, and then it's Stable Diffusion Web UI, and then it's outputs, and then it's image to image, images, text to video, and then I did generate one of these just to make sure it was working before, and then I believe these are like timestamps. So it's whatever this latest one would be. I think it's this one. Now you could grab them all from here, like there's the video here, or you could actually look at them just inside Stable Diffusion. So you come back to this tab, and you could go click here after the generation to show the video. And here's our bear. It's not really eating a picnic lunch, but it is, I don't know, I guess walking on a picnic mat? I don't know. You'll also notice that this has a Shutterstock watermark. Even though we're putting watermark in the negative prompt, using this original ModelScope model will just give you a ton of watermarks because of how it was trained. So in this case, you're pretty much always going to get a watermark, which is why people have done fine-tuning and why we're going to look at Zeroscope XL next. So you can keep playing with this, keep generating video if you wanted to try it, and just sort of see what it looks like. But in general, most people have sort of moved past this model because of these issues. So we'll take a look at Zeroscope XL next. Okay, so now let's take a look at how to install the new Zeroscope models. And actually, my procrastination here kind of paid off because there's a new way to do it that is much easier. So we'll look at that. So all I really did over here was just clear my terminal screen. Control L does that. All you need to do is make sure you're in this ModelScope folder. This is where we're saving all of our models. So if you're, for some reason, in a different place, maybe just type CD and then paste in the path to that ModelScope folder. So we just want to be in this one, not in the T2V one. Next, we need to download all the files. That's actually much easier than it was prior. You have to go and find all the individual models and bring them in one by one. But in the past couple days, this team has actually made a model folder specifically for the Auto 1111 tools. So that is at this link. Again, I'll put that in the notes for the video. And all we need to do is then copy over this entire folder, and then we'll do a little bit of manipulation to make sure it works for us. So to grab everything, we just want to come over here, and we're going to go clone repository, and you're going to get a couple lines of code. So the first one you want to run is git lfs install. LFS is just, I think it's large file system or service or something. It allows you to download big files using Git. So we'll just come over here. We're going to paste this in. And it should just say updated Git hooks and Git LFS initialized. That just allows it to be set up to install everything. Next, we want to come over and just run this script. So we're going to do git clone and then this URL. We'll paste that in. So this is going to download all of these files, and all these files are these three models. So there are three different Zeroscope V2 models. There's the 448 wide, the 576 wide, and the XL. Most people I've seen use just the 576. I don't actually really know too much about the 448, but you can use the 576 to do your sort of basic generation. And then XL is actually an up-resing model specifically for Zeroscope. So why we want to use these Zeroscope models over, say, the other ones? Obviously, the other one that we just looked at was like heavily watermarked. These new Zeroscope V2 models are not watermarked. You can see here that these models were trained using 9,923 clips and a bunch of tagged frames. And these are not watermarked, so that's what's sort of nice about this. This is actually like a good model for usage that doesn't generally include a lot of watermarking. Although we'll probably still want to avoid, like we'll add the negative prompt of watermark and that sort of thing, because this was fine-tuned on top of the original text-to-video models. Sometimes some watermarking can still appear, so using a negative prompt will generally avoid it, but good to see. I'm kind of rambling for a little bit because installing this takes a little bit of time. I think the last time I tried this was like 15 minutes-ish, because each one of these models includes a bunch of large files. So see, you've got a 2.6 gigabyte file here. You've got, about 4 gigabytes there, and probably about the same for each one of these. So all told, that's probably like 12 to 15 gigabytes, so that's going to take a while to download, even going fast server to fast server. So what I'll probably do is I'll just stop the video, and when this finishes, we'll come back and take a look at it and look at how to use them in Auto 1111. Okay, so I don't know, that took like 15-20 minutes, so it wasn't the quickest thing, but it was way faster than trying to download it locally and then upload it, as I mentioned before. There's one more thing we need to do before we can actually start to use this. If you open up the folder over here, if you open up Zeroscope, which is what we just downloaded, you'll see that this main folder is actually at the same level of the T2V, and the problem is we need all of these folders at this same level. So this is actually pretty easy to do. All we're going to do is drag these. So we're going to drag this one up to the model scope level, and wait a second because it sometimes takes a little bit for Colab to update. You'll see it's there. We'll drag this one to the same level. We'll drag the XL to the same level. And we'll drag the autoencoder.pth file to the next level as well. We don't actually need the README file, so I think we're just going to leave it there. And you'll see now that we have all of these at the same level as the T2V file. Last thing we can do, just for some cleanup, is just to delete this folder. So the way to do this, because there's files in here, is to copy the path, come over to terminal, do rm-r, and then paste in the path. If you try to delete this folder by itself just in Colab using the delete, it's going to say, hey, I can't do that because it's not empty. You could delete this file. It's pretty quick to do that, or this, but let's all learn a little terminal stuff. So rm-r says recursive, so delete everything in that folder. Run this. I don't know why that's taking forever. There we go. And if I refresh my browser, it's all gone. So now we have all of these at the right level. And actually, if you actually go into one of these files, like let's go into the 576 folder, and you double click on the configuration, the configuration JSON just tells you where all of the files are located, as well as some additional dimensions. And you'll see here that the autoencoder is at the one level above this folder. So all of these use this autoencoder, and thankfully because of that we can sort of like reuse all this, because this is like a 2 gigabyte file, so we don't have to like have multiple like 2.5 gigabyte files in all these folders. So that's it. We're ready to actually run this now. So let's go ahead and close all this out. Just to be safe, I'm going to stop the Start Stable Diffusion cell and run it again. And we're going to wait a second while this runs to just get our public URL. So far, so good. I've noticed that the newest version of Stable Diffusion, this notebook, does tend to throw some errors, but I looked into the errors that are being shown, and according to the last Ben, who's the guy that writes this notebook, yeah, you'll see some of these. Doesn't seem to be an issue. It's like they're warnings more than errors, and everything seems to be running fine. So if you do get errors here, don't worry about it too much, as long as everything runs. So now I've got a public URL. Let's open it up. And again, we'll go over to text to video. And this time, you'll see here we've got the option to select different models, or we should. Let's refresh this. Okay, give me a second. Let me figure out what's going on here. Why is that not working? Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I figured out what the deal is. So, if I had read this repo a little bit closer, you'll notice here that says simply download the contents of the repo to Stable Diffusion Web UI Models Text to Video. So they've sort of updated how this whole tool works a little bit. So let's go back over here, and you'll see, after I shut my cat up, you'll see that we used to dump everything in a folder called Modelscope. Now we put everything in a folder called Text to Video. So all you need to do is, in your Models folder, just create a new folder called Text to Video and drag everything in there. So I'm just going to drag this in there. I'm going to drag the 448W in there. And now I'm just going to delete that Modelscope folder because I don't need it anymore. So if you look in here now, I've got text to video with all of my folders. So all I actually should have just renamed that folder. I don't know why I didn't think that. Anyway, I guess I was just testing to see if it worked. So now let's come back over to Stable Diffusion, and you'll hit this little refresh button, and it's just going to look for all the new files in there, and you'll see, sure enough, here are all of our new files. So let's go ahead and just do 576, and let's put in the same prompt we had before, which was a bear having a picnic. And obviously, like, this is where you would probably want to do more prompt engineering, that sort of thing, but for this, I'm just going to leave it as is. The other thing we want to change here is we want to change the dimensions of this. So I believe, let me go check this out. Yeah, 576 by 320. So for this model is no longer square. We're going to do 576 by 320. And we're just going to leave everything else as is. So let's go ahead and hit generate. And we'll flip over to the Colab notebook. So far, so good. It's pulled everything in. And we'll just wait here a second to sort of see. This does tend to take a little bit of time, especially since we're using a new model. It's going to need to save that into VRAM and stuff. Okay, so I finished running. We can see it over here in the Colab tab. I don't know why I thought I was running an A100, but it turned out I was running a T4, so I had to restart it. So apologies for the weird skip there in the video. But it does run pretty pretty quick on an A100. And here we can see what our video looks like. So there is a mama bear with 2 legs. Baby bear is having a picnic. There was another funny one that I don't know if this is going to play. Let's see. Yeah, this other one, which was, I don't know, like a bear in a hat. I guess maybe they've seen the Paddington movies. So this is working now. I mean, obviously I would spend a lot more time doing some prompt engineering, like doing some other stuff. I also don't really care about bears. This is just for the demo video, but it works. So now let's talk about how to up-res our video using the Excel model. Okay, actually, I'm not going to show you how to do the upscaler for a couple reasons. So one, I've been working with the upscaler for a little while, and I'm not sold on it, to be honest. I think actually there are better tools out there for upscaling for video, like Topaz or even ESR GAN. Also, it turns out that with the Last Bend Auto 1111 repo, the way it loads, you actually can't use the upscaler in that. So what I will do is I'll record a second video that shows you how to use this tool, which is a separate Colab that is specifically just for using upscaling. So I'll cover this in a second video, and I'll probably make that one public so everyone can watch it. Yeah, a little bit of a change up on this schedule. But I hope you found SAMP Zero XL, or sorry, just Zeroscope. Man, really struggling today. Just Zeroscope by itself. I hope this has helped break it down a little bit more and allows you to sort of get started with that. So watch out for the next video. But in the meantime, again, thank you to Patreon and YouTube backers. It's really, really great that I get a little bit of money from everybody every month that I can help record these videos, and I'm definitely going to try to do more of them in the near future. So this is all for now. Thanks again. Let me know how this goes for you.